I'm Sen. Today I'm going to be taking this stack of clothes that I don't really wear and upcycling them into cuter pieces that I'll actually like. I was going to initially just donate all of this because, you know, it's time and effort to revamp it into something better, but then I remember that like the vast majority of clothing that you donate just goes straight to the landfill anyways, so instead of allowing that to happen, we're going to do something better. So there's these two tops that I wanted to modify into a brandy Melville Gina top inspired scenario. Now my initial plan for the sleeves was to add a little zigzag stitch to the very edge of the raw hem, because this would usually create a lettuce hem, which is like the frilly thing that's really trendy nowadays. But I didn't realize that the fabric that I'm using is not actually knit fabric, it's just a really stretchy ribbed fabric, so at certain angles it just wouldn't stretch, and so that's why it just looks really janky on the edges. I then measured a piece of elastic against the front chest part to see exactly how much elastic I needed to gather the front portion. I then marked out where the very center of the shirt was so I'd know where to sew the elastic on. I also ended up adding this little dart to the underarm of the shirt to make sure that the fabric was cinched in nicely. For the gray top, I decided not to actually cut off the sleeves and just add the piece of elastic in the center, and I think that turned out pretty well. I look like a boiled egg. So I have this pale blue shirt that I want to add side ruching to on, like, from the pit down to like the hem of the shirt, kind of like this one right here. Of course, I began by cutting the sleeves off and then hemming them inwards. I don't have pale blue thread, so I just use white. I then dissected a sleeve to serve as extra fabric that I would make the straps and the channel out of. I sewed two of the skinny rectangles together to create this extra long strap, which I then sewed down the entire length of to create a tube that I would then flip inside out. Once I finally got my sewing machine to cooperate, I finished sewing down the length of the strap and then I cut off the excess, although I did leave a little bit because when you flip it inside out, this excess is what fills up the tube and makes it rounder and like cylindrical rather than just a flat strap. Now it's time for my favorite bedside utensil, this pokey stick thing that I use to flip the tubes inside out. I don't know why, but like safety pins just don't do it for me. I really have to use this meat skewer. Now I'm going to create the channel on the inside of the shirt that the straps will eventually go into to create the ruching. I laid out the thick rectangle flat on the side of the shirt and lined up the very center of this rectangle with the seam or like the line that I wanted the center of it to be on eventually. Once the channel was put into place, I used a safety pin attached to the very end of one of the straps that we made earlier, and I stuffed it up the left side and then I brought it back down the right side. I measured to make sure that both sides were roughly symmetrical and I liked the way that the strings looked, and then I used a safety pin to attach the strings just so I had a general idea of where they were going to go. And of course, you have to make sure that every single time you sew something, now this is important, you need to stab yourself at least once. That's just how it is. I didn't want my strings to dangle outside the shirt, so I just sewed it flat and then cut the excess off. Why does it look like a spinal cord though? Now for the very final thrift flip. The final flip of this video is inspired by this Abercrombie tank top that I saw like an entire year ago that went on sale for $3 and I was like, I need it. But then I remembered that it's fast fashion and I don't really support Bangladeshi children being forced into slave labor for my own capitalistic tendencies. So I figured I'd just make it myself. So I'm using this tank top that already fits me as a guide for where to cut the sleeves. And then I just hemmed the raw edges like usual. Then I did the same thing as with the pale blue shirt. I cut out a bunch of rectangles to create the straps and the channels. Once I attached my 2 straps to create an extra long strap, I sewed down the entire length of it, like with the other shirt, to create a tube that I then flipped inside out. Then I had to figure out where the exact center of the shirt was to figure out where the channel was eventually going to go. I used pins to attach the center of this thick rectangle to the center of the shirt. I sewed down on the left side, the center, and the right side to create the eventual channels where the tube was going to go. I used the safety pin again to move the strap up the left side and down the right side of the channel. I sewed the 2 ends of the straps flat down to the hem of the shirt to make sure that they wouldn't move, and then I cut the excess off. There was also a weird, wavy situation going on with the armpit holes, and so I sewed 2 little darts near the chest to tighten the area up a bit. And here's how the finished shirts all turned out. If I'm being completely honest, I feel like the quality of these flips got a lot better as time goes on. The white one was, janky, to say the least. Those armpit holes could have been better. Now, this gray top is essentially the same as before. I'm just glad that I made the call not to cut off the sleeves. And yeah, she underwent a really cool transformation. The blue shirt is cute. I feel like I did a good enough job considering the circumstances. But this black top is definitely the best thing I've ever made, like, in my entire life. It's because it's like casual and cute, but it's black, so it could be paired with a lot of different outfit options. And also just the fact that it's like a basic, but not too basic. You know, there's a little something special about it. I hope you found this video helpful and informative, or at least like entertaining to some extent. I really love watching DIY videos, so I hope that this brought you some kind of inspiration. And yeah, I'll see you next time.